Joining us now, Republican Senator Ted Cruz of the state of Texas. Senator, good to see you tonight. And so your response, I mean, you've got the president, the Senate Majority Leader, the presumptive Democratic nominee, Hillary Clinton, the Secretary of State, all saying, assuring the American people that these five guys do not pose a legitimate threat to America.
Well, Megyn, that is stunning to see, because what we've seen happen here is the President of the United States has negotiated with terrorists to release 5 senior Taliban terrorists. And what they're saying, they're all reading the Democratic Party talking points, but what they're saying is not backed up by the facts. All 5 of these were senior members of the Taliban, which was intertwined with al-Qaeda, whom I know no one needs reminding, on September 11th, 2001, murdered nearly 3,000 people on the American homeland. And these terrorists, our young men and women, our soldiers, went and expended blood and treasure to capture these five senior terrorists. They were high priority targets. We captured them, and by releasing them, you know, the president made one very candid admission when he was asked. He said it was, quote, absolutely possible that these 5 senior terrorists would return to actively waging war against America. We're still fighting the war. The Taliban today is fighting against the men and women of our military, trying to kill Americans today.
But possible isn't the same thing as probable. And what Hagel said today, what Secretary Hagel said today, was that there was complete unanimity on this decision among the Secretary of State, the Attorney General, the Department of Homeland Security Chief, the Director of National Intelligence, Clapper, who, by the way, a few years ago said we all know what's going to happen if we release these guys, and he didn't mean rainbows and unicorns, and the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Now, if the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs is telling the President, don't worry about it, and you're the president, why wouldn't you listen to all those people?
Listen, number one, this was a decision that was made at the political level. We know that the commanding generals, we know that the senior military leaders, other than the top political players, were not involved in this decision. And, you know, if you want to know the reaction, look to the reaction of the Taliban. Senior Taliban leaders have been quoted saying that this release is a huge victory for the Taliban. It's the equivalent of 10,000 new Taliban soldiers arriving to fight against America. And indeed, senior Taliban commanders have also said that this now gives them an enormous incentive to go and capture other American soldiers, because it's, as this Taliban commander said, it demonstrates the value to such a, quote, rare bird as a soldier that you can trade for senior terrorists.
What about who is responsible? Because originally the president rolled out the news in the Rose Garden with Bergdahl's parents. And then we heard that when lawmakers such as yourself got briefed on Capitol Hill, the deputy national security advisor refused to say that the president made this decision, would not go that far, despite being repeatedly pressed. He would only put it on Hagel. Then when Secretary Hagel testified, he said it was the president. The president seems to have acknowledged implicitly that he made this decision. So why is the deputy national security advisor trying to spin lawmakers that it was Mr. Hagel?
Well, because unfortunately, national security in the Obama administration far too often has been treated as a matter of partisan politics. Look, these are the same people that in Benghazi focused all on this story about a silly internet video, rather than the fact that terrorists attacked and murdered 4 Americans, including the first U.S. ambassador killed in duty since 1979. It's all politics all the time, whether it's President Obama or Hillary Clinton.
As a political matter, but let me ask this, Senator, as a political matter, I mean, God forbid these 5 Taliban commanders actually do kill additional Americans, either service personnel or others. But as a political matter, it's not like Hillary Clinton sitting there doesn't realize that's a possibility, or President Obama doesn't realize that's a possibility. How can they be so explicit about the fact that it's not going to happen?
Well, the White House has a pattern, which is when it engages in action, particularly extreme action, it prepares its people with talking points to vilify anyone who disagrees. So it was obvious when the president held the ceremony at the White House with the parents of Sergeant Bergdahl, and it was a moving ceremony. I mean, it was any time you see the parents of a soldier who's been held in captivity welcoming their child back, your heart leaps for them. And I think the White House believed that they could embrace that moment, and that anyone who raised concerns about these senior terrorists being released, they would just vilify as, you don't care about our soldiers. What they didn't count on was that so many of the soldiers who served with Sergeant Bergdahl decided they had to speak up and speak out against this deal. And they didn't count on the American people understanding, yes, we should always stand with our soldiers. We should never leave a man behind. And indeed, maybe we should have gone in with military force to rescue Sergeant Bergdahl. But it doesn't mean we should release senior terrorists who could attack or murder other Americans. And indeed, one question,
was the price too high? That's what they're asking. Two other things I want to get to with you quickly. We've been talking tonight about the immigration situation along the southern border. Of course, you're from Texas, and this has been described even by the president as a humanitarian crisis. Darrell Issa today came out and suggested that children may die. They may die as a result of this influx that we're seeing and we cannot handle. What do you believe should be done with the now, upwards of 90,000 children expected to cross the border in a year where we were expecting 6,500?
Well, Megyn, this is a humanitarian crisis, and it is the direct result of President Obama's lawlessness and unwillingness to enforce the law. In 2011, there were roughly 6,000 unaccompanied minors who came across the border. This year, it is expected there will be roughly 90,000. Next year, they're projecting up to 145,000. And it's important to understand what caused this. This was caused by, in the summer of 2015, President Obama unilaterally and illegally granting amnesty to some 800,000 people who were here illegally who came as children. And what that has prompted is parents throughout Central and South America giving their young children, handing them over to the smugglers. And it's worth emphasizing, Megyn, these are transnational global criminal cartels, and parents are giving them teenage girls, teenage boys. These boys are subject, these girls are subject to physical assault, to sexual assault, to being sold into prostitution. It is horrific, and it's because the president won't enforce the law. And our hearts should be breaking. And the answer is to start enforcing the law. Get back to when we were enforcing the law and you didn't see unaccompanied minors coming over in these massive numbers.
So they don't think it's going to. I've got to ask you this before I let you go. So you had dual citizenship, Canadian and United States, and you've decided to date us exclusively. So that's nice to hear. Why'd you do that? And does this mean you're going to run for president?
Well, as you know, I was born in Canada. My mother was an American citizen by birth, and so under U.S. law, I'm a U.S. citizen by birth. I had been told as a child that I did not have Canadian citizenship because I had to affirmatively claim it. I discovered in the last year that was incorrect, that in fact I had both, and so when I was made aware of that, it struck me that serving as a U.S. Senator representing 26 million Texans, that I should be an American and only an American. So I made the decision to renounce my Canadian citizenship, and that has been happened. That has happened.
Got it. Now, suddenly you started to really enjoy lacrosse and ice hockey, and you said, why? Oh, I'm Canadian. Well, we're glad that you've come over exclusively. Thanks for being here, Senator.
Well, and I've lived almost my whole life here, and I love America, and so I'm glad to be only an American.
All right. Good to see you.